I want to get into some juicy stuff. So it's Black History Month.
Yes.
And
28 days.
Yes. And it sounds
Do
like
you
you have
found
some
out?
thoughts on that.
Well, we all have thoughts, but I actually looked up why it's in February. It was Abraham Lincoln and I think Frederick Douglass' birthday fall this month. That's why. And so I guess they wanted to.
There's a reason.
Yeah, there is a reason. Not just because it's the shortest month. Well, that's just amongst my friends feel like, why take a month? Let's just do something every day in our lives to kind of further that and maybe elevate it to another level in Black History Month. Like, actually, I do want to start my YouTube channel this month, things like that. I want, like, a lot of friends of mine, we are doing things this month that we may want to do in our business that kind of is some milestone.
I love it. I have a question on it about Black History Month in general. I feel like it's silly to just confine it to a month because then everyone kind of like squeezes it in. Like even myself, right? Like we're gonna do something this month to like commemorate it or like whatever that case may be, but just in February. And I don't think about it much, if I'm being honest, the rest of the year. And that's a potential problem, squeezing it into any month.
So the hope would be that you're doing something meaningful because you want to do it.
It's a reminder for me.
Hopefully, maybe over time, it'll spill over into something that you think top of mind, and then it becomes a part of your business model annually, or just maybe doing things at the end in another month, or like the diversity of your team just kind of seems like, hey, and I would probably pose the question to them: what do should we do something different?
Yeah. So I think it's an interesting transition because this is kind of like learning about you. During one of your speeches, I think it was.
I don't give that many speeches. I'm not an orator. During one of my speeches,
you're not a good orator. Get out of here. You're the most natural orator I've ever seen in Chicago, at least.
That gets you out more.
During your acceptance of the presidency at the
my remarks,
your remarks, you said that a huge spur for you to want to run for the president were the events of George Floyd.
Correct.
Can you expand on that? And
I sure can.
As president, so like how do you think you can affect change, starting from real estate? And how can we agents also? So like, this is again, me learning. How can I disseminate information to my influential group here about how we can help?
Okay, so there's two things. So the one thing was a speech. So I was on the board of directors and my term was ending and I had no intention of running for executive team. I did my time, and I think as part of leadership, you have to kind of know, like, when is it time for you to, pull back or just on to the next challenge. I'm involved at all levels from a volunteer, local, state, and National Association of Realtors. I am because a lot of the policies that come from Washington affect underserved communities that I live and work in, especially when it comes to mortgage rates, things like that. It affects us the most, but we are the least represented. So it was important for me to A, try to get that message out, and B, just be involved and more informed, which is why I pulled back on the residential part of my business and doing more consulting and work for the government. That being said, I was pulled when it happened. A lot of Realtor members were across the state. They were posting some pretty nasty posts. It was very nasty. And so I had exposure to that because they wanted me to sit on some panels with different associations. Because I think in Chicago, even though we're one of the most segregated cities, it's still diverse here. So I can travel 20 minutes anywhere and maybe be in a different neighborhood. And especially from the realtor side of it, there are a lot of different agents from different backgrounds. And so the things they were posting with noose and it was just very racist. And there was nothing in the code of ethics to prevent you from saying that.
To do business.
So seeing how that was, I'm on the board of directors for the National Association of Realtors as well. And so an article was introduced to say, if Ben is out, if we're out chit-chatting or outside of business, you are still under the same, you still wear your realtor hat. And the pushback was crazy. Like that was debated on the floor for over 2 hours. And so I was always like, what do you want to say? Like, we don't want our speech. We don't want to be...
freedom of speech. Well, what the fuck do you want to say?
Yes. And no one could tell me what they wanted to say. And these are people that I knew. And so, I was making a mental note. I'm like, oh, I thought we was cool. And so I took that and said, and I have a mentor outside of real estate. And he was like, well, if you have a chance to be in a form of leadership, as an African-American woman, then win or lose, you should at least try to attempt, because I said, well, it's not my responsibility. And he was like, actually it is. And so I had to think about that. And then I had conversations with leadership there, just from the time commitment and making sure it was the path I wanted to take, and went for it. And so as president, I do want to see people that look like me and come from where I come from, just a regular background, nothing special, to say, you can do this too, if that's something you want to do. Not everyone wants to volunteer, but even if you don't volunteer, I mean, like you and I, we met, it was a Real Producers, and that's how I met Andy Burton. He wanted to get more diverse in his breakfast meetings, or his, what do you call it, the Real Producers meet up. And I would never come. And I kept saying, I need to go. And then I met you, and then you had a whole entourage.
You met me, and you met, more importantly,
Zach. Who's the brains behind this whole operation.
The whole thing, man, yeah.
But it was just like, just having a conversation, because I do feel in those, those scenarios.
Can I kind of wrap it in a bow?
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is, of course, the president of the Chicago Association of Realtors is
I'm just Sarah Ware, though, on most days.
No, but I'm saying, but it is a prestigious position. However, for younger people, especially people of color and women, like, you don't have to become like the fucking president.
No, you do not.
Like,
everyone doesn't need to be president.
Relatively achievable, high enough profile job, and you want to show that
volunteer leadership position.
Okay.
Because people think like, this is my job.
No, you're a real estate agent.
Yes.
Yeah. But you want to be able to show that a Black woman can hold this position. So
Yes, and that I'm approachable, and I think that's just who I am as a person. Because people are like, oh, you're so approachable.
Yeah, you're the most approachable person I know. I met you 4 weeks ago.
And here we are.
Yeah.
I just really want to see your podcast set up, though. This is nice. Just to stay on the topic too, and I wanted to kind of meet you and see how you run your team, because traditionally African Americans, we do our dollar volume is lower. And so I said, let me meet Ben to see, is he doing something? Yes, he's in a different market, but can those same tools be translated and a team on another part of town, maybe not a higher price, but
so
duplicated?
Here's okay, let's kind of dive all the way in, because we were talking about this earlier. So I think that a big part of this is, and we talked about it yesterday on that panel, is I run this like a business.
Yes.
I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I was lucky enough.
Because this is business number 4. I learned that yesterday.
Yeah. I had a business in college, like in the online food ordering business. If I was smart enough, I would be DoorDash. I'm just not smart enough. Then I was
just so close.
A property manager, general contractor, now this.
Okay.
Right?
So you ran all 4 of those?
Yeah, ran all 4 of those. So I was lucky enough, right? I had an immigrant father, and like, he was an entrepreneur, and he's like, don't you ever fucking work for anyone. But I think that's part of it, is, immigrants.
Your upbringing.
Mindset. Yes. So I was lucky enough to have that. So to say, is it replicatable? Of course it is. But I had someone like for 30 years saying, don't work for anyone, don't work for anyone, don't work for anyone. So yes, but I know that there are challenges, especially in the Black community.
Get a job, you go to school, get a job, or you get a good job and you stay there and you retire and you're pension, but you have someone telling you, don't get a job, work for yourself. So sometimes it's like, we just need that, either be that nudge, that example. And I guess if we can be examples for people that we know.
Here's the first time where I'm like, okay, I hope I don't fucking put my foot in my mouth. But like, what I hear, my perception of the like Black community is there's a lack.
Let's hope we don't put a foot in the mouth.
There's like a lack of like strong, especially male leaders in this space. That's my perception. That others can learn from in that capacity. Right now, I have 22 people who are learning from me in a similar capacity.
And I don't want to, especially when it comes to Black male.
Tell me to like, shut up. That's fucking
No,
stupid.
I just don't. Because my parents are still together. I have 3
That's
brothers.
kind of where I'm going. That's what I think.
I have 2 nephews, and so I think I've had all strong black male figures, and I don't want to perpetuate that there is not that.
So that's the thing is,
I just think sometimes some opportunities are open faster than someone else due to whether that's profiling, whether that's upbringing. And so I think we sometimes have more challenge. We have more challenges based on where we come from just as a culture and just being black. I could be, Sarah Ware, but because my friends joke about my name, but there are some names that are
white name.
Yeah, but they are. Is it though? But yeah,
you said it to me.
But if there's a certain name, you are discriminated against. If now Zoom, I'm hearing Zoom, you are getting discriminated against based on interviews. Because they say, hey, let's hop on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And now even in housing, the Housing Act passed in 1950s plus years ago, and blacks are worse off now than they were then.
In what regard?
In home ownership and wealth building.
Got it.
And so that's one of the major things in wealth building. So how are you going to attain that if you don't attain the quote unquote American dream?
With you. So, rewinding a touch, we were trying to understand a little bit about, okay, you came here to see if this was replicatable.
Yes, right.
In some capacity. And
right.
Why, I have agents of color on my team, why they're choosing to work here. And we are one of the major players on the north side. Why? And can, people on the south side, especially, black people in the space, can they do the same thing? And we were talking about why, if you're anyone, regardless of race, if you're really good at what you do, you should go where the dollar values are higher.
And eventually, even if you start there, you want to move your price point up.
I want to go to California. If I could replicate this in California where dollar values are higher, that's just good business.
Even for my volunteers, I have to have more than just wanting to volunteer. I have to have a passion, some philanthropic side to give back. And I have to make sure I'm in a financial position. I'm just happy to be in a financial position where that works for me because I can do that based on...
Yeah, you're donating a lot of time.
Yes. And everyone can't do that or wants to do that. And that's no fault to their own. And even on the south side...
Not everyone has the energy like you do.
Orange Theory.
That's it. They actually sponsored this episode.
Club Pilates. Are you serious?
No.
You're sponsored by Orange Theory. Thank you. You have to have the energy, the passion, and having done transactions year after year and putting people in home. It's, you meet people and that cannot be, there's no price on how happy sometimes they are. At the closing table, people have cried. Yeah. And some of these transactions are tough.
Oh my God.
They are tough and you're not really making a lot of money. And we have, we make the least amount of money on the lower dollar value product.
Yep.
And so should we be mad if agents want to go and increase their dollar per hour?
So here's,
But I don't want to say that you can't make money in those neighborhoods because you can. And you absolutely, I've made a living.
Yeah.
Because traffic up north, I don't know how y'all deal with that.